What's up, community of restoration and enlightenment? Coming at you for another TheCoreofU Friday. So happy to have you with us and joining us on Facebook and IG. And remember, you can always find us on our website, www.TheCoreofU, C-O-R-E of letter U.com, and in YouTube. We're just thankful this Friday and want to talk about, we were asked by a family member, how do you navigate when one of you is in transition? And they specifically cited, wedding vows. Like a lot of times you say for better or for worse. And what that could mean is anything, right?
No doubt.
That person themselves in transition, like maybe they're going through something with their body, or maybe they're going through something with a job transition, or what emotional, whatever.
Well, I mean, like we've talked about, like dealing with if one of us were sick. Mm-hmm. We've dealt with that. I've been sick before.
We dealt with being laid off before.
For a couple of days, being laid off before. Transitioning from one job where you get out of, and so now you're applying for another one.
Right.
That's
And how do you navigate that?
Yeah.
And first off, I really am surprised at how so many couples kind of have like a boundary beyond which they don't go into detail because they don't want the other person to feel uncomfortable. Mm. So you might say, well, what's going on with what the doctor say? Well, I don't know. I didn't go to the doctor with them and they didn't share those details with me. Or, how long do they have before they're making this transition? Or how did the job interview go? Oh, you know what? They didn't share it with me, so I didn't ask. That is interesting to me when because I don't operate like that. I'm like a open book when it comes to my mate. And those boundaries feel so stiff to me.
Well, I mean, let's talk about that. It's a scary feeling. I mean, it's a vulnerable feeling, I guess, because when you're by yourself, you just kind of do you move at your own pace. You may have a friend or a parent or somebody like that you go to, and excuse me, and they may give you advice on how to go through things, or if they've been through it before. But for the most part, they're going to give you advice and they're going to leave you to say, okay, and then you go and you make the final choice on what you need to do.
Right.
When you're in relationship, when you have a business, a partnership or something like that, it's not necessarily that. The decisions that you make, well, obviously it's going to affect you, but could ultimately affect your significant other. If you have children, it could affect the finances. I mean, there's so many things that it could affect, right? So, like, case in point, like if you got upset and just walked away from, maybe walked away from a job without talking to your significant other. Now, if you've been talking and you're communicating and they know that it's a possibility, then that's a different story. You like, okay, I know there's a possibility any day that you may walk out of there and leave because they're just not treating you right. They're not doing. I might even encourage you. You know what? You need to leave because you're just not the same person.
And you guys can start planning and preparing.
And you can start planning. But if let's just say if a person just, we've seen it before. Like a person has a midlife crisis and they just all of a sudden
go buy a sports car.
Go buy a sports car, right? Yeah, right in the middle of, or go quit their job and say we're just going to get a boat and go sail the world. And so things like that, transitions like that, right? So if you have those transitions, it's scary when you have, I keep saying scary. It's not really scary, but it's a vulnerable. Yeah, it's a vulnerable feeling to know that you need to really confide in your partner so that you guys can make that decision together. You don't know how they feel. Maybe they've said some things in a subconscious manner that you're in your mind thinking, they're going to hate me if I do this, so they're not going to love me, they're not going to trust me or whatever. So those things,
if you make those moves. Oh, and
make those moves, right?
It is interesting too, because I have been in a relationship where I live with someone and we were financially connected, and they'll do things and tell me last minute, oh, I got this big bill that we have to pay.
Or, that we have to pay.
Yeah, or because one of us can't do it alone.
Right.
Or it is interesting when you're dating how quickly you cross the boundary versus I feel that if you are in partnership already, living together, married, if your resources are combined, I really would urge you to get to a point where if there is something that's off the table, that you examine why. Like, oh, why do I feel like I can't talk to my significant other about that? Because that makes you feel shut out, and it can create a gap there.
I think they were doing this at job. I think we got to put like what do you call those? A push pin.
Put a pin.
Put a pin in that right there, because how many times do people have relationships where there are certain things that, as you said, are kind of off the table? They can't. They no, we can't talk about it. We can talk about this, that, but we can't talk about that.
Like it could be the past, it could be their family, it could be what happened in jail, whatever.
Whatever it is.
You have to either examine, wow, is this going to be okay for me for the long haul? Or have to say, well, that's something we need to work on, because I feel like that keeps us less connected.
Right.
That's why is it? And it may be a call for the person who has that's shutting the door, that you might need some coaching or counseling in that area, because why can't you let someone in there?
Right.
What is it that's making you feel like you have to only deal with that subject alone? You know?
And that was a big thing. And I know for us, when we first started dating, and you were way more open than I was. I was way more. But my personality also, too, is way more closed off than yours. I'm way more introverted than you are. But you've helped me, pull that out of me more to be okay. But see, I think that's the thing, too. You made it okay. When we set the stage and we gave each other the platform. Okay, here, this is a safe space. Let's talk about this. And I'm like, hey, this doesn't feel safe for me. Okay, I'm going to help do whatever I can in my power to help make it safe for you to talk about that or this or those things. Okay, and so then little by little, kind of like a child, you kind of get coaxed out. So I would talk about it, throw a little tidbit there, just when we were first dating. And her response was, your response was healthy. It wasn't from a judgmental zone. Now you had questions. You quite so then why is this? But even the questions they felt like you really cared, like you really wanted to know. Okay, why? Okay, well, wow, okay. And then you would say sometimes, well, listen, I've dealt with this in my life, so I most certainly am not going to judge you and and look down on you upon it. That's just something that we'll keep an eye on and we'll work through it if we come to that road.
That's a good point. If you are asking somebody to go into an area that they're very private, you need to make them feel safe. And then one thing we try to govern ourselves by is to not bring it up in anger. Yeah. Something that was shared with you in confidence or something that was shared with you in general, you should try not to bring it up in anger.
Yeah, that's tough when you get into an argument and then they throw that up. That one thing that you didn't feel safe with talking about, or feel you didn't want to bring out that vulnerability, and then boom, in a moment of anger, then that comes out as sort of a dart or a shot to get you told, to get you back. Maybe they're hurt, whatever's going on. That is difficult. That's difficult.
Now, how soon, like as a man, sometimes they say you can turn off the other person if you tell too much too soon. Mm-hmm. So there is a balance of that when you're dating, of not just verbally vomiting on someone, right? But also being authentic. So yeah. I know that line is kind of different for men and women, and just different for people based on extrovert or introvert.
Yeah. So you just got to move at a pace that's comfortable for you as much as you can. You got to move at a pace, and then just be open with the person of saying, please don't rush me through this, because this is very difficult for me. So I'm going to talk and give you a little bit, and then, okay. And then maybe we stop there and then go a little bit more. But then you really also, and so see, this is the thing why it's so important to spend quality time with a person, especially a person that you consider to call your significant other. That's why it's so important. And so that's why now I know things like this is why I understand why some of our elders sometimes would say, you're moving too fast. You are moving too fast, because there are some intricacies and there are some subconscious mindsets and some things that are going on that the time that you spent with that person hasn't been enough for you to see them in that dark space or that light space or whatever.
Yeah, you
know
don't
what I
get
mean?
to go through the seasons together to kind of work through some of that.
No doubt. And so I understand now why they would say that. So it's important to try to spend time. So then you know your person you're with a little bit, and then you feel good with opening up and saying, okay, I feel like we are at a mature place in our relationship where I can talk to you about this and know that you're not going to kill me. You didn't kill me behind it as far as, beat me down and make me feel less than. And I tell you what I will say, as vulnerable as it was when we first started and talking and opening up more and more, because I am such an introverted person, right? When you gave me the platform to feel free and to be at peace with it, it was liberating. It was liberating. To be able to have that conversation, to be like, okay, right. So, and that's how you are. I know, like for guys, we're like, okay, I told her this last night. All right, let's see. So now I'm like sleeping like this, one eye looking at you, and I'm like, okay. And then the next day comes, next morning maybe, and y'all sitting there looking at one another, and it ain't just like this dead silence, and y'all still cool, and she's cool, and you're looking at her body language, and you're like, oh, okay, we're cool. Then you get past that, and that's how guys kind of do. 24-hour mark. Oh, 48-hour mark, 70. Wait a minute, it's been a week and we're still cool. It's been a month. All right,
well, you just touched on something though, so it kind of also sounds like you shouldn't ask questions you don't want to know the answers to and can't handle it. If you know that you can't handle knowing certain things, you probably don't need to go there until you can be mature enough to handle it. Right?
So that goes back to knowing yourself. That's the reverse of what
we're talking about.
Yeah, that goes back to really knowing yourself, knowing you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk about, okay, how far do you want to go into your past when you're dating?
Right.
Somebody may ask you things and then they throw it up on you.
Right.
They may not can really handle that. Don't ask questions that you can't handle.
No doubt.
Knowing the answers to.
No
right?
doubt. No doubt. So being in relationship with somebody, if they're going through a certain transition, or in your relationship you are going through a transition, that's what we're talking about tonight. Respecting one another's space, but also making sure you effectively interact with one another when you're going through transitions. And although the person is going through that individually, it still affects you. It may affect your mood and the way you come home every day. If it's like a job, or if it's school, or if it's finances, health, or if it's your health, then you most certainly should want to talk about it then, because let's say if it causes some kind of like chemical imbalance, and I know sometimes that those terms are used to say somebody's kind of crazy, but that's not always the case. There are certain things that can happen that will definitely, this, if you don't eat in a timely manner, you get the blood sugar, or you could get angry, little cantankerous, little snappy and snippy. So if they can happen with just food, it most certainly can happen if something is thrown off with the balance of your body, Well,
and mental illness and certain things can be managed, and people do at some point have to feel like they can talk about that. If that's something they're coping with, it is going to eventually affect their partner.
No doubt.
And it may not be a date 1 topic, and it may not be a date 2 through 3. But it does need to be able, because you need to be able to be who you are and know what you're getting into, and vice versa. I mean, I think people owe it to people they're in dealing with on a regular basis to be authentic at some point about that, right, when it makes sense. And I know that line is different for everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's probably the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway from it all. And I've been in relationships before you and I were together. It was different. It was different for different females in different situations. It was different. I've had friendships. There were certain things that were just different. Heck, let's just be honest. With our own blood family, there is some interaction there with different. You may have that one aunt or uncle or cousin you can't tell them everything, because they become volatile and they take it in and they want to go fight and do harm to people, and then you have that one or 2 or 3 or whatever that may really understand and really sit and give you good advice, and you can see them on your birthday and on Thanksgiving and on New Year's, and they're going to be the same no matter what. And here's that one, if you tell a family member something, they giving you the cold shoulder, and you like, you know, things were cool with us until we had that conversation,
Right.
you know? So the transitional phases in your life, they are going to happen. It doesn't matter. They are going to happen. When B was pregnant with the children, those were transitional phases. When I first moved out here, we both were going through transitional phase, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't working for a few when I got out here. That was a transitional phase for me, you know. It was definitely tough, you know.
And when I had postpartum depression with the children, when I was looking to change employment or just not happy, and then as a matter of fact, just managing stress right now because I'm going through a very difficult period at work.
No doubt.
And being able to vocalize it. And sometimes I'll say, listen, I just need to be able to talk. I'm not gonna go off the edge, but I just need to talk. And it's nice to know that I can talk to my significant other about it and not just my mom or my sister. Like you need to be able to have those outlets, and sometimes you do have to let your partner know, or somebody close to you. Look, I'm just airing out right now. This isn't like a call for help, but if it is a call for help, you need to say that too, because there has to be that space and that person that you could just say what you really thinking, and then maybe get past it. Right?
Yeah. And see, once again, and this is why the elderly, that shout out to all of our just our fountains of wisdom in our lives, past and present, right? Just shout out to them, because there were just certain things that they would talk to you about and say about time. There's something about time in relationships. It's something about time. Time is big, because when you spend, the more time you spend, if it's not just wasted time, let me say that right.
Okay.
Effective time spent with someone, you get to really learn them. And what I mean is you get to, as you said, I love it, in and out of these different seasons. So I get to see how you interact and how you are and how you respond to me, how I respond to you. We get to really learn and know one another. And there are going to be things, even with us 12 years in, there are going to be things down the road that somebody that's 20 and 25 years in that can teach us and tell us, most definitely, right? And there are things that that we may be able to tell somebody that's just getting into a wedding and marriage and all that in 1 and 2 years. But time is huge, so I think that's why it's so important. And that's why, you know, and I know it sounds old school and kind of cliche, that's why it's so important that when you're dating and when you're out, put your cell phones down, get off of Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, look each other in the eye and spend some quality time with that person that you're sitting across the dinner table with, so that you can really learn them and know them. How are they interacting with the waitress and the servers and other people around them in different races and different ages? How are they? What are their isms? We all have them, right? What are their isms in life? Whether they're great, they're positive, or they're negative. That's why time is so important, so you can learn, so that when you do get to those transitions, you feel good. Or if it's something new pops up, you can say, okay, wait a minute. I've never seen this part of you, this side of you. Hey, can we talk?
Yeah, sometimes you just say, how can I support you through this moment?
Right?
How can I help through this moment? And so, you know, we're talking about when one of your partner or someone your relationship with is in transition, how do you guys manage that? And we've covered a lot of ground tonight in talking about making sure there's certain things that are not off limits. If you're the one that has the limits, why? Mm-hmm. Is that something you need to get coaching or counseling on? Mm-hmm. If you ask a question, be sure you can handle an honest answer, right?
Can you handle the truth?
And we also talked about like making sure, you know, at some point that there's boundaries that shouldn't be put up if you're in a long relationship. And if it's a new relationship, you know, you don't want to give all and tell all quickly, but at some point you do have to remain in your authenticity and talk about where you're at. And that's even, I mean, I know some people be like, wow, I can't date because I need to lose weight, or I don't have the right job, or I don't have the situation. Don't wait. You will always be in wait.
Yeah.
Just be honest about where you are and where you want to be, and don't try to look for something you're not. So I mean, we hope you got some tips on that transition, right? Supporting one another in the transition, and ask, like, how can I support you through this moment? What is it that you need?
And be honest, also to be honest. Hey, I thought maybe things were okay. I was cool. Everything was up. But you know what? This is bothering me, or I'm really excited about it. It doesn't always have to be negative, right? So here's this transition that's going on at my job, or with finances, or with my health, or with whatever, whatever the transition is, with family. And this is how it's making me feel. And then maybe that opens the door where the other person can say, oh, I kind of noticed it. Okay, yeah, well, let's talk about that. Let's sit down and let's really have a heart to heart, and let me do whatever I can. And, for fellas, we want to fix everything. We can't always fix everything,
Sometimes you just need to
Sometimes
listen.
you just need to be a sounding board and listen. And that's exactly what you are. Let them plug in and you just sit back and listen. Seriously.
And remember, make that space safe, and we don't throw it up in no one's face. So
you don't bring it up.
You gotta make it safe for someone to be in transition with you. But you also, you can talk through things, but don't use it as a weapon later. So
no doubt.
We hope you guys enjoyed this segment, how to support a significant other or a partner or friend in transition. And let's stay connected. Let's stay growing, and let us know if there's something you want us to touch on at the Community of Restoration. Remember, you can connect with us. You can share this. If somebody might bring something up that hits on this, and let us know what we should be touching on at www.TheCoreofU, CORE of letter U, on IG, Facebook, YouTube, and the website. And we're down to pray and connect with you any way you need to support your spiritual growth and ours.
No doubt. We hope that, as always, we leave you with peace in your heart and in your homes on this beautiful Friday evening or night, or depending on what time zone you're in. And we'll catch you next Friday, as we are slowly coming up on our 1-year anniversary of us doing the TheCoreofU Friday conversation. So
that's right.
We really want to try to do something special for that. We hope that you join us every Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Peace.